Fire had burned down to coals. Outside, snow fell against the cabin windows, soft and relentless, the kind of storm that erased mountains and turned the world into a blank page. Inside, there was only the two of them and the dark, and the time they had left. Dawn was 3 hours away. Cole Mahaffey knelt on the floor in front of the hearth, feeding the last piece of wood into the fire. His hands were steady. They had been steady through gunfights and posies, and the long, bloody miles that had brought him to this cabin in the high country. But they were not steady now. He had not looked at her in an hour because he knew if he looked at her, he would not leave. And he had to leave. "You're thinking about it again," she said from the bed. Her voice was soft, worn. The voice of a woman who had spent the night crying and was finished with tears. "I'm always thinking about it," he said. "Then stop thinking and talk to me." He turned. She was sitting up against the headboard, the quilt pulled to her waist, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. Her eyes were red but dry. She had stopped crying an hour ago. That was worse. When she cried, he could hold her. When she was still and quiet like this, there was nothing he could do except feel the distance between them grow. "What do you want me to say?" he asked. "The truth. For once. All of it." He stood and crossed the room, not to the bed, to the window. He pressed his palm against the cold glass and looked out at the dark. Somewhere beyond that snow was a posse. A price on his head, a rope with his name on it. "If I stay," he said, "they find me. They find you. They hang me in the town square and you watch. Maybe. Not maybe. Definitely. Then don't let them find you." He turned to face her. "You think I haven't tried? You think I want to leave you in this cabin with nothing but a dead fire and a memory? Then don't." "Lark." She flinched at her name, not because he said it wrong, because he said it like goodbye. "Don't you dare," she whispered. "Don't you dare say my name like that and expect me to just let you walk out that door." He crossed the room in 3 strides. He dropped to his knees beside the bed and took her face in his hands. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. Her skin was warm. Everything about her was warm. She was the only warm thing left in his life. "If I stay," he said, his voice breaking on the words, "I'm a dead man, and I can't die in front of you." "I can't make you watch that." "Then don't die. Everyone dies, Lark. Not tomorrow. Not like this." She reached up and covered his hands with hers. She held him there, his palms against her face, and she looked at him with an expression that made his chest ache like a bullet wound that had never healed. "You promised me one more night," she said. "I know." "You promised me you wouldn't leave until dawn." "I won't." "Then stop saying goodbye. You haven't left yet." He closed his eyes. He had ridden through hails of gunfire without flinching. He had stared down federal marshals with nothing but a Colt and a cold smile. But this woman undid him. She had undone him the first time he saw her, standing at the edge of a dusty road, watching him ride into town like he had any right to be there. She had known what he was, and she had hidden him anyway. "Why?" he asked. "Why what? Why did you take me in? You knew who I was. You knew what I'd done." She pulled his hands away from her face and held them in her lap. Her thumbs traced the scars on his knuckles, the old wounds, the map of a violent life. "Because you looked at me," she said, "like I was the first good thing you'd ever seen. I was running from a manhunt. I know. I had blood on my hands. I know. I'm not a good man, Lark." She lifted her eyes to his. "I didn't ask for a good man. I asked for you." He kissed her. There was nothing gentle about it. He kissed her like a drowning man gasping for air, like she was the only thing keeping him from disappearing into the dark. She met him with the same desperation, her fingers tangling in his hair, pulling him closer, pulling him onto the bed. He broke the kiss and pressed his forehead to hers. They were both breathing hard. "We shouldn't," he said. "Why not?" "Because it'll make it harder." "Harder to leave?" "Yes." She looked at him. Her eyes were the color of whiskey in the firelight, and there was a fierceness in them that made his heart stumble. "Cole," she said, "it's already hard. It's been hard since the moment you rode into my yard. Leaving won't be hard because of tonight. Leaving will be hard because I love you." He made a sound, Not a word. Something raw and broken that came from a place in him he thought had died years ago. "Don't," he whispered. "Don't what?" "Don't say that. Not tonight." "Why not tonight?" "Because if you say it again, I won't be able to walk out that door." She smiled. It was a sad smile, the kind that hurt more than tears. "Then don't walk out," she said. "Stay. Fight. Let me fight with you." "You don't understand what you're asking. Then explain it to me." He sat back on his heels. The fire crackled behind him. The snow kept falling. He looked at the woman in his bed, the woman who had hidden him for 3 weeks, who had fed him and stitched his wounds and never once asked if the bounty on his head was deserved. "The posse has 50 men," he said. "Maybe more. They're being led by a U.S. Marshal named Cross. He's been hunting me for 2 years. He knows every trick I know. He's not going to stop until I'm in the ground or on a gallows." "So we run." "Where? The mountains? They have trackers. Mexico? They have informants. There's nowhere I can go that they won't find me." "Then we stop running." She slid off the bed and knelt in front of him. She took his face in her hands, the same way he had held hers. "We fight. Right here. This cabin. We make our stand. This cabin is a death trap. Then we die together." "No." "No?" He grabbed her wrists, not hard, just enough to stop her hands from moving. "I have spent 10 years running from one thing or another," he said. "I have slept in ditches and caves and the beds of women whose names I don't remember. I have killed men. I have buried friends. I have never had a single thing in this world that was mine. Until you." Lark's eyes filled with tears. She did not let them fall. "You're not going to lose me," she said. "I already have. Dawn is 3 hours away, and then I walk out that door and I never come back." "Then don't! Lark, don't!" Her voice cracked. "Don't tell me what you have to do. Don't tell me it's for my own good. And don't stand there and pretend like you're protecting me when all you're doing is being a coward." The word hung between them. Coward. No one had ever called him that. Not to his face. Not twice. "I'm not a coward," he said quietly. "Then prove it. Stay. Face them. Let me stand beside you. They'll kill you. Then I die standing next to a man I love. There are worse things." He pulled her against his chest. She went willingly, her face pressed to his neck, her arms wrapped around his ribs. He held her like he was trying to absorb her into his body, to keep her safe inside his bones. "You're supposed to make this easier," he whispered into her hair. "I'm not here to make it easier. I'm here to make it worth it." He laughed. It was a broken, wet sound. "You're going to be the death of me." "Maybe," she said. "Oh, but not tonight." She pulled back and looked at him. Her tears had fallen. She didn't wipe them away. "Tonight," she said, "you're mine. Every inch, every breath, every sound you make. I'm always yours. Then stop acting like you're not." He kissed her again, slower this time, deeper, a kiss that said everything he didn't have words for. She tasted like salt and something sweet, like the wild berries that grew along the creek in summer. He wanted to remember that taste forever. She pulled at his shirt. He let her take it off. The cold air hit his skin, but her hands were warm, tracing the scars on his chest, the old bullet wounds, the knife marks, the map of every wrong turn he had ever made. "Tell me about this one," she said, touching a long scar along his ribs. "Knife fight, Abilene, 1878. Did you win?" "I'm here." "Aren't I?" She smiled and kissed the scar. Her lips were soft. He shivered. "And this one?" Her finger traced a round scar on his shoulder. "Bullet, Texas, 1879. A sheriff who didn't like my face." "Did you deserve it?" "Probably." She kissed that one too. "Lark." "You're going to make me forget why I have to leave." "Good." He laid her back on the bed. The quilt was soft beneath her. The firelight flickered across her face. She looked up at him with an expression that made his chest ache. "You're beautiful," he said. "You've never said that before." "I've thought it every day." "Why didn't you say it?" "Because I knew if I started saying things like that, I'd never stop." She reached up and touched his jaw. His beard was rough against her palm. "Then don't stop," she said. He lowered himself over her. His body covered hers. Warm and solid, she wrapped her legs around his hips and pulled him closer. "You're going to leave at dawn," she said. Yes. Then you have 3 hours to make me forget that. He kissed her throat, her collarbone, the place where her heartbeat fluttered against her skin. 3 hours isn't enough, he murmured. Then make it enough. He took his time. He had spent his whole life rushing, from one town to the next, one fight to the next, one woman to the next. But not tonight. Tonight he moved like a man who knew this was the last time. He learned her all over again. The way she gasped when he touched the inside of her wrist, the way she arched when his mouth found her breast, the way she whispered his name like a prayer when his fingers found the place between her thighs. Cole, she breathed. I'm here. Don't stop. Never. He worshipped her. That was the only word for it. He had never worshipped anything in his life. Not God, not country, not any woman before her. But Lark was different. Lark was the reason he had survived every close call, every dark night, every moment he thought about giving up. He had survived because he hadn't met her yet, and now that he had to leave. He pushed the thought away. Not yet. Not now. He positioned himself above her. She looked up at him, her eyes dark and full of something that looked like forever. Look at me, she said. I'm looking. Don't close your eyes. I won't. He entered her slowly, inch by inch. Her breath caught, and she gripped his shoulders, her nails pressing into his skin. He watched her face as he moved inside her, watched the pleasure and the love and the grief all tangled together. You feel, he started. I know. I didn't know it could be like this. Neither did I. He moved faster. She met him with every thrust, her hips rising to meet his, her fingers in his hair, her mouth on his shoulder. The fire crackled, the snow fell, the world outside disappeared. Don't leave me, she whispered. Lark, promise me, don't leave me. I can't promise that. Then lie to me. He stopped moving. He looked down at her, at the tears on her cheeks, at the woman who had asked him to stay when every instinct told him to run. I love you, he said. She closed her eyes. I love you, he said again. I should have said it sooner. I should have said it every day. I love you, Lark. I love you. And I'm sorry I have to go. Then don't. I have to. Why? He lowered his forehead to hers. His body was still inside hers, still joined, still connected in a way that felt like it could never be broken. Because if I stay, you die, and I would rather spend the rest of my life running from you than watch you die for me. She wrapped her arms around his neck and held him. Then go, she whispered, but not yet, not yet. Not yet, he agreed. He started moving again, slow at first, then faster. The pleasure built between them, a wave that rose and rose and rose until neither of them could breathe. Look at me, she said. He looked. Don't forget my face. Never. Don't forget this. Never. She shattered beneath him. Her body arched, her mouth opened, and she made a sound that was half his name and half a sob. He followed her a moment later, his face buried in her neck, his body shuddering against hers. For a long time, they lay tangled together. The fire died. The room grew cold. Neither of them moved. The first gray light of dawn crept through the window. Cole lay on his back with Lark's head on his chest. Her fingers traced lazy circles on his skin. His arm was wrapped around her, holding her like he could keep her there forever. The snow had stopped. Tell me something true, she said. Something true? Before you go, tell me something you've never told anyone. He was quiet for a long time. The first time I saw you, he said finally, I thought about staying. Not because of the posse, not because I was tired, because you were standing in the sunlight, and you looked at me like I wasn't already dead. You weren't dead. I was. I had been for years, and then you looked at me, and I wasn't anymore. She lifted her head and looked down at him. Then stay. Lark? Stay. Not for me. For you. You deserve to live, Cole. Not just survive. Live. He touched her face. His thumb traced her lower lip. What if I can't? What if you can? He closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had changed. The resignation was still there. The grief. but underneath it, something else, something that looked like hope. "I'll come back," he said. She went very still. "What?" "I'll come back. I don't know when. I don't know how. But I'll find a way. Cross can't hunt me forever. The posse will give up eventually. And when they do, I'll come back to this cabin and I'll find you. Promise me." He sat up. He took her face in his hands, and he kissed her like it was the first time and the last time and every time in between. "I promise," he said. He stood, he dressed, he buckled on his gun belt. She watched him from the bed, the quilt pulled to her chin, her eyes bright with tears she refused to shed. At the door, he turned. "Lark. Cole. You'll beg me to stay." "I already did. And I'll beg you to let me go." "I won't." He smiled. It was a sad smile, but it was real. "That's why I'm coming back," he said. He opened the door. The cold air rushed in. The snow was deep on the ground, and the sky was pale with dawn. 1 year, he said. "Wait for me 1 year. If I'm not back by then, you'll be back." "How do you know?" She smiled through her tears. "Because you promised." He touched his fingers to his lips and then to his heart. Then he stepped outside and closed the door behind him. Lark sat in the silence. The fire was dead. The room was cold. She pulled the quilt tighter around her shoulders and listened to his footsteps fade into the snow. She did not cry. She waited. 1 year later, almost to the day, a rider appeared at the edge of the property. He was thinner than she remembered. His face was harder. There were new scars on his hands, but his eyes were the same. He dismounted. He walked to the door. He did not knock. She opened it before he could. "You're late," she said. "I know. I waited. I know. Don't ever do that again." He stepped inside and pulled her against his chest. "I won't," he said. "I'm done running." She looked up at him. "Promise?" He kissed her. "Promise."